Old Hollywood is often remembered for its glitz and glamour, the towering figures of beautiful women and handsome men who graced the silver screen. Yet behind the sparkling facades and carefully curated public images, many of Hollywood's brightest stars led chaotic and scandalous lives. The period from the 1930s to the 1950s was rife with personal strife, rebellion, and turbulence that often spilled over into the public eye. These actresses, many of whom were hailed for their beauty and talent, also became notorious for their out-of-control personal lives, living on the edge and refusing to conform to the expectations of Hollywood or society. Their stories are not only captivating, but also serve as a reflection of a time when fame and personal freedom collided in the most explosive of ways. In this in-depth exploration, we will dive into the lives of 20 old Hollywood actresses whose personal lives were filled with scandal, defiance, and tragedy. Their stories include tragic deaths, tumultuous marriages, wild behaviors, and the battle against the constraints of the Hollywood studio system. Jean Harlow became the embodiment of Hollywood's blonde, bombshell persona. With her platinum blonde hair and sultry screen presence, she was an instant sensation in the 1930s. But behind the glamour was a life filled with scandal. Harlow's infamous marriage to MGM executive Paul Byrne ended tragically, when he was found dead under mysterious circumstances in their home. The press speculated on the cause of his death, with some suggesting it was a suicide linked to Harlow's rumored infidelities. Jean Harlow's own personal life was tumultuous. She had a string of high-profile relationships, including an affair with MGM head Louis B. Mayer. Despite her public image of the perfect sex symbol, she battled personal demons and was known to be deeply lonely. Harlow's rise to fame was cut short when she died from kidney failure at the young age of 26, leaving behind a legacy marked by scandal, intrigue, and unfinished potential. Dorothy Dandridge was one of the first African-American actresses to gain significant recognition in Hollywood. She became the first Black woman to be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress for her role in Carmen Jones, 1954. However, her life was far from the glamorous success her career seemed to promise. Dandridge's personal life was fraught with difficulties, from failed marriages to abuse and alcoholism. Her first marriage was to Harold Nicholas, a dancer from the famous Nicholas Brothers duo. Though their union ended in divorce, Dandridge never found lasting happiness. She struggled against the racist barriers of Hollywood and was often marginalized despite her talent. Her later years were marked by financial difficulties, mental health struggles, and a series of troubled relationships. In 1965, Dandridge was found dead in her Los Angeles apartment, a tragic end to a life filled with personal chaos and unfulfilled promise. No conversation about out of control Hollywood actresses would be complete without mentioning Marilyn Monroe, the epitome of the tortured iconic starlet. Monroe's rise to fame was meteoric, but her life was marked by self-doubt, depression, substance abuse, and multiple failed marriages, most notably to baseball legend Joe DiMaggio and playwright Arthur Miller. Monroe was often criticized for her difficult behavior on set, with her infamous breakdowns and unreliability leading to several setbacks in her career. Her relationships with powerful men, including rumors of affairs with President John F. Kennedy and his brother Robert Kennedy, further fueled the public's fascination with her scandalous personal life. Monroe's struggles with mental health and her inability to cope with the pressures of fame led to her tragic death in 1962, under mysterious circumstances. Though her death was ruled a suicide, conspiracy theories still abound, with many wondering if the pressures of fame and the constant invasion of her privacy were ultimately responsible for her untimely demise. Ava Gardner's life was as captivating and tumultuous as her screen roles. Known for her sultry looks and fiery temper, she became one of Hollywood's most sought-after actresses. Gardner's personal life, however, was a whirlwind of scandalous marriages and passionate affairs. Her marriage to actor Frank Sinatra was particularly infamous. with the couple's constant bickering and public spats making headlines for years. Sinatra was reportedly devastated when the marriage ended, but Gardner later admitted that it was her wild nature and need for independence that made the relationship unsustainable. Gardner's unapologetic lifestyle extended to her relationships with other Hollywood stars, including Howard Hughes and a brief affair with journalist and author Ernest Hemingway. Despite her fame, Gardner was known to be reckless, often drinking heavily and engaging in relationships that were as tumultuous as they were passionate. Her life was marked by heartache, but she remained a captivating figure in Hollywood until her death in 1995. Lana Turner was one of the most famous actresses of the 1940s and 1950s, known for her beauty and her role as the quintessential sweater girl. Her career was marked by scandal after scandal, including several high-profile marriages and affairs. Turner's most infamous moment came in 1958 when her daughter, Cheryl Crane, fatally stabbed her lover, Johnny Stompanato, in what was later ruled as self-defense. Turner's life was also marked by numerous marriages, including to millionaire businessman Steve Crane and her turbulent relationship with bandleader Artie Shaw. Her love life, frequently in the tabloids, overshadowed her career, and the actress herself was often blamed for her many failed marriages. Turner's ability to remain a star despite her personal turmoil is a testament to her resilience, but her later years were overshadowed by the scandal that would follow her everywhere. Joan Crawford is remembered for her dedication to her craft and her commitment to playing strong, often melodramatic roles. However, her personal life was rife with dysfunction. Crawford's notoriously icy relationship with her adopted children, particularly with her daughter Christina, was legendary. Christina later wrote a tell-all memoir, Mommy Dearest, which painted Crawford as an abusive and unhinged mother. The book became a bestseller and was adapted into a cult classic film in 1981, forever cementing Crawford's legacy as the bad mother of Hollywood. Crawford's marriage to actor Douglas Fairbanks Jr. ended in divorce, and her relationships were often marked by turbulence and infidelity. Despite her reputation for being ruthless on set, Crawford's personal life was far more complicated, and she became a symbol of the extremes Hollywood actresses went to maintain their public image. Bette Davis was one of the most celebrated actresses in Hollywood history, known for her fierce dedication to her craft and her unwillingness to conform to the expectations of the studio system. Davis was notorious for her volatile personality, which often led to clashes with other actors and directors. She was never one to shy away from controversy, and her fierce independence and refusal to play the game often put her at odds with the Hollywood elite. Her marriage to artist Arthur Farnsworth ended in divorce, and her relationships with men were often fraught with conflict. Davis's public feuds, especially with fellow actress Joan Crawford, are the stuff of Hollywood legend, particularly their bitter rivalry during the making of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, 1962. Despite her undeniable talent, Davis was often seen as difficult, and her rebellious spirit led to a lifetime of scandal and conflict in Hollywood. Terry Moore's career began in the 1940s, and while she was known for her beauty, it was her personal life that attracted the most attention. In 1949, Moore became involved in a scandal when she married billionaire Howard Hughes, only for the marriage to later be declared invalid. Moore's life was further complicated by a brief, secret marriage to a man named Stuart Granger, and her eventual marriage to a prominent lawyer and politician. Her life was filled with rumors of infidelity and marriage instability, adding to her reputation as an out-of-control actress in the eyes of the press. Zsa Zsa Gabor was famous for her glamorous lifestyle and for marrying 9 different men. Known for her sharp wit and unapologetic personality, Gabor's many marriages were a consistent source of scandal. She was also involved in several controversies, including a highly publicized arrest for slapping a police officer in 1989. Gabor's personal life was marked by constant drama, yet she maintained a steady presence in the public eye, making her an enduring figure of scandal in Hollywood. Greta Garbo was one of the most beloved actresses of Hollywood's golden age, known for her performances in Camille and Grand Hotel. Despite her fame, Garbo became famous for retreating from the public eye and living a private life, which only added to her mystique. However, her refusal to conform to Hollywood's demands for public appearances and her somewhat cold and aloof demeanor earned her a reputation for being difficult to work with. Garbo's relationships were also marked by secrecy, fueling rumors about her sexuality and private life. Though she never married, Garbo's enigmatic nature made her a perfect subject for gossip, and she became the symbol of an actress who wanted to escape the expectations of fame. Barbara Payton's story is one of Hollywood's most tragic. Once a promising young actress with undeniable beauty, Payton's life was marked by a series of destructive choices and relationships. She quickly rose to fame, appearing in films such as Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye, 1950. But soon, her personal life overshadowed her career. Payton's short-lived marriage to actor Franchot Tone and her romantic entanglements with multiple men, including actor Tom Neal, became the subject of media frenzy. The turmoil from these relationships ultimately led to her descent into alcoholism and a failed career. In the 1950s, Payton's personal life took an even darker turn. She was arrested for assault, became involved in numerous violent altercations, and was known for heavy drinking and drugs. By the time her career had dwindled, Payton's life was a shadow of its former promise. She died in 1967, just 39 years old, from heart failure brought on by years of abuse, leaving behind a legacy of shattered dreams and tragedy. Sharon Tate's life and career were cut short in one of the most infamous tragedies in Hollywood history. Known for her beauty and innocence, Tate was on the rise in the 1960s, appearing in films such as Valley of the Dolls, 1967, and The Fearless Vampire Killers, 1967. She had a promising career ahead of her and was married to director Roman Polanski. However, Tate's life took a devastating turn when, in 1969, she became one of the victims of the Manson family murders. At just 26 years old, she was brutally murdered, along with 4 others, by followers of Charles Manson. Tate's murder was a shocking and senseless tragedy that left Hollywood and the world in shock. She became an iconic figure not only for her brief career and beauty, but also as a symbol of innocence lost in the face of a violent and senseless act. Jayne Mansfield epitomized the dumb blonde stereotype, but behind her bombshell looks was a woman who led a life filled with scandal and wild behavior. Known for her hourglass figure and her role in films like The Girl Can't Help It, 1956, Mansfield's life was characterized by her outrageous behavior, which often overshadowed her career. She was married 3 times, with her most famous relationship being her marriage to actor Mickey Hargitay, with whom she had 3 children. Mansfield was often the subject of public scandal, including a famous incident when she was photographed in a revealing dress that showed off more than was deemed appropriate at the time. Her behavior was deemed out of control by many, as she frequently made headlines for her escapades, including her love affairs and public stunts. Tragically, Mansfield died in a car accident in 1967 at the age of 34, but her legacy as the wild and unruly starlet remains. Eartha Kitt was an extraordinary talent, known for her sultry voice, striking beauty, and performances in films like The Mark of the Hawk, 1957, and Boomerang, 1947. But Kitt's refusal to conform to Hollywood's expectations and her unapologetic behavior made her one of the most controversial figures of her time. Kitt's most infamous moment came in 1968 when she made a political statement during a White House luncheon hosted by then First Lady Lady Bird Johnson. Kitt publicly criticized the Vietnam War, and her outspoken remarks led to her blacklisting from Hollywood. She was labeled a troublemaker by many, but Kitt was unapologetic and continued to pursue her career in music and theater, where she found great success. Though her career was impacted by her refusal to conform, Kitt's legacy as a strong-willed and independent woman in an era when conformity was expected makes her a fascinating figure in Hollywood's history. Brigitte Bardot's name has become synonymous with the term sex symbol. Her stunning beauty and provocative films like And God Created Woman, 1956, made her one of the most sought-after actresses of the 1950s and 1960s. However, Bardot's life was not as glamorous as her film roles would suggest. As her fame soared, Bardot grew increasingly disillusioned with Hollywood and its expectations for her. She became notorious for her out-of-control behavior, which included frequent outbursts, a series of highly publicized marriages, and personal struggles with depression and isolation. She shocked the world when she retired from acting in the early 1970s, becoming a recluse and withdrawing from the public eye. In the years that followed, Bardot became an outspoken animal rights activist, often courting controversy with her controversial statements. While she was undoubtedly one of the greatest icons of her time, Bardot's public persona and private struggles remain intertwined with the scandalous life she led. Rita Hayworth was one of the most glamorous stars of the 1940s and was dubbed the Love Goddess by the public due to her stunning beauty and sultry performances in films like Gilda, 1946. However, Hayworth's life was filled with turmoil, much of which was hidden from the public eye. She was married 5 times, including to famous actor Orson Welles and Prince Ali Khan, but her relationships were often marked by infidelity and conflict. Hayworth's most tragic struggle was with mental health, as she later became one of the most famous figures to be diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's disease. Her public image as a sex symbol hid a woman battling emotional and psychological issues that only came to light in her later years. Despite her personal struggles, Hayworth remained a beloved figure in Hollywood, remembered for both her beauty and the heartbreaking story behind her star. Judy Garland's life was an epitome of both brilliance and torment. Best known for her role as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, 1939, Garland became a beloved figure in Hollywood, captivating audiences with her incredible voice and timeless performances. However, her journey through Hollywood was marred by severe, personal struggles. Garland was subjected to emotional abuse and control from the MGM studio system, which forced her to adhere to a strict schedule of performances, pills, and constant dieting. This, in turn, led to struggles with addiction and mental health issues that plagued her throughout her career. Garland's tumultuous marriages, including her relationship with director Vincente Minnelli and actor Mark Herron, were also fraught with chaos. Despite her struggles, Garland continued to shine on screen. Her painful personal life often contrasted with the sparkle of her performances. She passed away tragically young at 47, leaving behind an enduring legacy as one of Hollywood's most talented but tormented stars. And Sheridan, dubbed the Oomph Girl, was one of Hollywood's most captivating leading ladies in the 1930s and 1940s. Known for her fiery red hair and sultry voice, Sheridan was a major sex symbol and starred in films like King's Row, 1942, and The Man Who Came to Dinner, 1942. Her private life, however, was less glamorous. Sheridan's multiple marriages were riddled with controversy, especially her second marriage to actor George Brent, which ended bitterly. She also had several publicized affairs, including one with actor John Ireland. However, despite her personal turmoil, Sheridan maintained a strong career in Hollywood. Tragically, she died in 1967 from cancer at just 51. A life cut short too soon. Hedy Lamarr was known for her beauty and sophistication, captivating audiences in films such as Algiers, 1938, and Samson and Delilah, 1949. Her personal life, however, was anything but serene. Lamarr was married 6 times, and her tumultuous relationships often made headlines. Her most famous marriage was to her second husband, a wealthy Austrian munitions manufacturer. This marriage was marked by infidelity, scandal, and eventually her escape from him after an escape through a window. While Lamarr's beauty was what initially brought her fame, it was her later work as an inventor that made her truly remarkable. She co-invented a frequency hopping system, which was later used in military and commercial technologies, including GPS and Wi-Fi. Lamarr's story is one of a misunderstood woman, often seen only for her looks, but who left an indelible mark beyond the world in ways far beyond Hollywood. Dorothy Malone was known for her beauty and her performances in films such as Written on the Wind, 1956, which earned her an Academy Award. However, her personal life was just as dramatic as her on-screen roles. Malone was married twice and had numerous affairs, including a well-known relationship with actor William Holden. Her most infamous scandal involved a brief but highly publicized affair with director John Huston, which became fodder for gossip columns. Malone's volatile relationships and personal challenges were overshadowed by her success as a leading lady, but her off-screen life often seemed as turbulent as the roles she portrayed in Hollywood. Gloria Grahame was one of the most talented actresses of her time, known for her sultry voice and enigmatic screen presence in films like The Big Heat, 1953, and Oklahoma, 1955. However, her personal life was marked by scandal, the most notorious of which was her marriage to her former stepson, Anthony Ray. Ray was the son of her second husband, actor Nicholas Ray, and their controversial relationship was the subject of much public outrage. The marriage ended in divorce, but Grahame continued to live a life filled with scandal, including struggles with her career as her personal life overshadowed her fame. Despite her tumultuous private life, Grahame remained a respected actress and a Hollywood legend until her death in 1981. Wild Kim Novak's beauty and talent were undeniable, and she became an icon of 1950s and 1960s cinema with her roles in films like Vertigo, 1958, and Picnic, 1955. However, Novak's personal life was filled with drama and scandal. She was involved in a tumultuous love affair with actor and director Sammy Davis Jr., and her relationships with other stars often made headlines. Despite her stunning looks, Novak's enigmatic personality and refusal to conform to Hollywood's standards made her a controversial figure in the industry. She shocked Hollywood when she chose to retire from acting in the 1960s, an act of rebellion against the studio system. Novak's decision to withdraw from the limelight only added to her mystique, making her one of Hollywood's most intriguing, yet mysterious, figures. Linda Christian is often credited as being the first Bond girl, appearing in the 1954 television adaptation of Casino Royale. While she never reached the fame of later Bond actresses, Christian's personal life was filled with intrigue. Christian was married to actor Tyrone Power, one of Hollywood's top leading men, and the couple had 2 daughters. However, their marriage was marked by infidelity and ended tragically when Power died suddenly of a heart attack in 1958. Christian was also romantically linked to numerous other celebrities, including Errol Flynn and Marlon Brando, and became known for her daring, sometimes reckless personal life. Though her career did not soar to the heights she might have hoped, Christian's personal life made her a memorable figure in Hollywood history. Shirley Temple was the most famous child star of the 1930s, her adorable smile and charm winning the hearts of audiences in films like Bright Eyes, 1934, and Curly Top, 1935. However, as Temple grew older, her life became less about child stardom and more about navigating the often ruthless adult world of Hollywood. Her early years were marked by heavy studio control and adult-like pressures, and she faced personal challenges as she tried to transition to adult roles. Temple married twice, including to the influential Charles Alden Black, and eventually left Hollywood in the 1950s to pursue a more private life. In her later years, she became a diplomat, representing the United States in various foreign posts. Despite the challenges she faced, Temple's legacy as the first child star to successfully transition into adulthood remains intact. The lives of these 15 actresses from old Hollywood offer a fascinating and sometimes heartbreaking glimpse into the dark side of fame. Their personal scandals, defiance of societal norms, and troubled relationships are reminders of the pressure, scrutiny, and struggles many stars face behind the glitz and glamour. Each woman, while contributing to the timeless legacy of Hollywood, also lived lives that were anything but ordinary, defined by moments of chaos, defiance, and, at times, self-destruction. Though their stories may be filled with scandal and controversy, they continue to be remembered not just for their on-screen accomplishments, but for their willingness to live on their own terms, regardless of the consequences. Their out-of-control behavior became, in a way, a part of their allure, keeping them forever etched in the history of Hollywood and in the public's collective memory as some of the most fascinating and misunderstood figures in film history.